The Christian life can be described in various ways. It can be described as a battle against evil. In the baptism service, there is a prayer for the candidate: fight valiantly as a disciple of Christ against sin, the world, and the devil, and remain faithful to Christ to the end of your life. The Christian life can be described as a walk with God, with Jesus. Whoever claims to live in Jesus must walk as Jesus did. And then it can be described as a race. And that's what I'd like us to focus on this morning. Verse 1 of chapter 12. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. And so what are the circumstances in which the writer of Hebrews describes this race? The opening verse of 12 again. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. This suggests an athletic contest in a great Roman amphitheater. The witnesses are the heroes of faith, all those men and women who are listed in chapter 12 of Hebrews. They are inspiring examples of faith. And faith is actually defined in the first verse of chapter 11. Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Sure and certain, a sure and certain hope. We are certain, we have that certain hope that we shall be with God now and forever, and that we shall see Jesus face to face. The Apostle Peter in his letter elaborates that, though you have not seen him, you love him, and even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the goal of your faith, the salvation of your souls. I know you like Greek. Here it comes. The Greek word for witness is martus. Can we say that together? I know it's 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Martus. I didn't hear actually what you said. Martus. It is actually our word martyr, and it means that one who testifies to the power of faith and to God's faithfulness. A person who testifies. And the Christian life is pictured here as a long-distance race, a marathon, rather than a short sprint. But in the race, we need encouragement. We need to encourage one another. And I'm sure that there have been men and women in each of our lives who have encouraged us. I thank God that I have such persons in my life. Jenny has always been an encouragement to me. And in my early ministry, there was a man, a Scottish United Reformed minister. Bob Gordon was his name. He had a very rich Scottish accent, and he was a person who just told you straight. There was no messing around with Bob. But what he taught me was to be absolutely versed in the Word of God. And then there was in my life a man who died a few years ago, Uncle Des. Now, Uncle Des encouraged me throughout my life. When I was 18 years old, if you can imagine me 18 years old, I wanted to go to university, to London University, which is a prestigious university, to read law. That was something in those days which was quite out of the ordinary for a working class boy in Tottenham to ever want to go to university, because the culture was that I should go out to work and earn money. But Uncle Des encouraged the family. He encouraged me. I got my degree. I qualified as a solicitor. I became a partner in a firm in the city of London for some years. And then something happened. God called me to be ordained and to give all that up. You can't imagine the furor in the family that caused. My mother was beside herself, really, but it was Uncle Des who came. He calmed everyone down, and he supported me. And he even came to services at All Saints in Edmonton, which you know is very close to Tottenham. And so, how do we actually run the race that is set before us? How do we run that race? The writer to the Hebrews challenges us to do 4 things. In fact, they are 4 commands, or in the Greek tense, they are called imperatives. 4 imperatives. Let us go through them very quickly. The first one is in verse 1. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. The Greek for hindrance is onkon. Can you say that with me? Please wake up. Onkon. I didn't quite hear it. It needs to be put out there. Onkon. It actually means a weight or a burden. And so think about what actually weighs you down, what actually weighs me down in the race. Is it a particular relationship? Is it a particular pleasure that I'm engaged in? A habit that I have? An entertainment that I always watch? We have to be careful that these things do not become more important than God. What is becoming more important than God in our lives? Football, books, and so on. The hindrance. And then the writer says we need to throw off the sin that so easily entangles us. The sin that so easily entangles us. And I'm sure all of us have particular sins that we know that we could just get rid of. They are what are called besetting sins. They repeat themselves, however much you or I may try to set them aside. Do you want to know my besetting sin? I'm sure you do. Whenever I have to ring an institution because I've got a problem with them, I ring them. You're on the phone before 3 or 4, you're passed on to 3 or 4 different people. Before you actually get to the right person, explain what the problem is. Oh, no, sir, we can't do anything about that. Then this is the point where I've prayed before, please, Lord, do not let me blow it at that point. I always do. I say, let me speak to your supervisor. Oh, no, the supervisor won't say any different to what I'm saying. Let me speak to your supervisor. And then, okay, a little gap, the person comes back. The supervisor is out. The supervisor is always out. But then what you need to do, get the email of the CEO, tell them the complaint, go straight, send your email. Within a few days, you get satisfaction. Go to the top. But I am ashamed that so often I blow it on the phone. Jenny will tell you. I usually have to ask Jenny to ring because I know she doesn't blow it. The first imperative, let us throw off. The second one is let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us run with perseverance the race that is marked out for us. God has marked out a particular course for each one of us. He has a particular plan and purpose for each one of us. And to finish the race well, we need to rely upon the Lord for his strength and guidance. We can experience the same satisfaction that the Apostle Paul did when he reached the finishing line. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. We must run the race with perseverance. When things become too difficult, when we are tempted to give up, then it is then that we need the encouragement of each other, the encouragement from others, and to focus especially upon Jesus. And that's the third imperative. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, says the writer to the Hebrews, verse 2 of chapter 12. We run the race focused on Jesus. Jesus lived his life in total dependence upon the Father. He had absolute faith that the Father would enable him to go through all the mocking, all the rejection, all the desertion before even crucifixion, which is one of the cruelest forms of torture and punishment and execution ever devised by man. And Jesus endured everything by faith, that he is the author and the perfecter of our faith. Our faith begins and ends in him, begins and ends in him. So let us fix our eyes always on Jesus. The Greek suggests that we deliberately lift our eyes away from all the hindrances, the entanglements, and focus with utter concentration on him and continue to do so. And as we focus on Jesus, let us recall that he endured the cross, scorned its shame, and he endured the cross for each one of us, taking the penalty for sin, which is death, upon himself, dying in our place as our substitute. And so Jesus did all that for us, for the joy set before him, and to be with the Father once more in glory. And his death and resurrection culminated in Jesus being exalted to the Father's side, sitting down at the right hand of the throne of God, his work finished and never needed to be repeated. He is at the right hand, the place of privilege. When you get that invitation from the Queen to go and have a meal or a banquet with her, make sure you get the position which is at the right hand of the Queen, because that's the place of privilege. That's the place you want to be. But more than that, you want that place with Jesus, that right hand with him, where he rules and reigns and has in control. You may not think it in looking at our world today, but he is in control. And he is, and I just cannot get this, it's so mind-boggling that he forever is interceding for each one of us. Every one of us is being held in prayer at this very moment by Jesus. We are never, ever out of God's mind. And then the fourth imperative is consider him. And as we continually consider Jesus, focusing on all that he has done, we will not lose heart. We will be strengthened. The Greek for consider actually means carefully consider all that Jesus has done. Turning away from all those things, we should turn from those that distract us, continually and consciously focusing and meditating on Jesus and following him. And so we are in a race, a marathon race. Let us thank God for all who have been an encouragement to us in that race. Let us ensure that we encourage one another when we need that help, when we need to be out of the entanglement of sin. Let us encourage one another, but let us always have those four imperatives before us, throwing off all hindrances and entanglements, running the race with perseverance, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, and considering him and how he lived. To God be the glory, great things he has done. Amen.